Let's look at prokaryotic organisms and what they are and how they work. When we deal with prokaryotic organisms, we're going to see things like this. You can see they are unicellular, and for the most part, all of these are unicellular. If they are more than unicellular, they're an agglomeration of cells, but they are not really where it comes down to having tissues or structures like that. There are several parts in this unit, and right now we're going to look at the first part about cells, then we're going to look at cell extension, then we're going to look at cell walls, and then we're going to look at some really bizarre forms of these. When we look at the way a bacterial cell is put together, it says that we've got three basic parts. We've got an internal part, which includes things like plasmids and endospores, and the nucleoid, or your chromosome, inclusion bodies, ribosomes, and cytoplasm. And you can see the internal part does not have a whole lot of things to it. The outer part, or the cell envelope, it says it's got an outer membrane, it's got a cell wall, and it's got a cytoplasmic membrane. And then it says there's an external part which can have flagella, pili, and fimbriae, and there are different cell surfaces that could be in here. And we're going to look at how each one of these are important in this particular chapter. This is your bacterial cell in a schematic form. When we look at this, we can see that it's got a whole bunch of different parts. The big green thing coming off of the bottom is what we would call a flagella. The little tube that looks like a drain tube is going to be called a pilus. We can also have cilia around the outside, which are these small green things off on the back. The kind of going inwards from here, it says the kind of beige crinkly letter would be your capsule. Inside of that, you are going to find a cell wall. Inside of the cell wall, you find a cell membrane. And so in that mechanism, it's much like any other type of cell. The blue material on the inside is the cytoplasm. There is a chromosome, and the chromosome is a single circular chromosome that is all bunched up on the inside. It's made out of DNA, just like everything. Down near where the flagellum comes off, there is a little ring, and that would be a plasmid, and that is a small circular piece of DNA that replicates independent of the chromosome. And many bacteria have these, and these can be used to transmit material. And then you've got things like an inclusion body on the inside. The little dots scattered throughout are the ribosomes. So when we look at it, the bacterial cell really is not complex. It does not have membrane-bound organelles. The ribosomes on the inside are 70S, so they're a little bit different than everything else. And it's really not that sophisticated compared to a eukaryotic cell. They are very simple, and they come in a lot of different shapes and sizes. These guys here are Thiomargarita namibiensis, which A means they come from Namibia. B, they are thio, which refers to sulfur. Margarita, because they come in little packets, much like a flower. And these are put in here because when you look at the size of these, it says they're 0.2 millimeters, and 0.2 millimeters is the thickness of a human hair. So these guys are really large in size compared to anything else. We put this in there because it's important to understand that bacteria, even though you've seen them in lab, and those that which you look in lab are very tiny, these are much larger in size. And the last part we look at in here are the ribosomes. The ribosomes are interesting because the ribosomes are made up of ribosomal protein and ribosomal RNA, just like they are everywhere else. But the ribosome in this particular case is a 70S ribosome. 70S means that it is slightly smaller than the normal eukaryotic ribosome. So we've got a difference in ribosomes here. This is 70S, which are specific to bacteria. So when we think about bacteria, prokaryotic cells, normally we think of these tiny little things that are not very sophisticated, but what they do is quite complex and quite interesting.